यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यमुनातीरावनचारी यमुनातीरावनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यमुनातीरावनचारी यमुनातीरावनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय नृसिंहपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य स्तोत्र सत श्री श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस ऐसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय नृसिंहपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य स्तोत्र सत श्री श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्भागवतम की जय। श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की जय। श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय। हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 22, The Marriage of Kardama Muni and Devahuti, text numbers 29 and 30. Barhishmati Nama Puri. Barhishmati Nama Puri. Barhishmati Nama Puri. Sarva Sampat Samanvita. Sarva Sampat Samanvita. Sarva Sampat Samanvita. Nyapatan Yatra Romani न्यपतन्यत्र रोमाणि न्यपतन्यत्र रोमाणि यज्ञस्य अंगं विधुन्वतः यज्ञस्यांगं विधुन्वतः यज्ञस्यांगं विधुन्वतः कुशाः काशाः त एव आसन् कुशाः काशास्त एवासन् कुशाः काशास्त एवासन् शश्वत् हरित वर्चसः शश्वद्धरित वर्चसः शश्वद्धरित वर्चसः ऋषयो यैः पराभाव्य ऋषयो यैः पराभाव्य ऋषयो यैः पराभाव्य यज्ञ घ्नान् यज्ञम् ईजिरे यज्ञघ्नान् यज्ञमीजिरे यज्ञघ्नान् यज्ञमीजिरे बर्हिष्मती नाम पुरी सर्वसम्पत्समन्विता न्यपतन्यत्र रोमाणि यज्ञस्यांगं विधुन्वतः कुशाः काशास्त एवासन् शश्वद्धरितवर्चसः ऋषयो यैः पराभाव्य यज्ञघ्नान् यज्ञमीजिरे बर्हिष्मती नाम पुरी सर्वसम्पत्समन्विता न्यपतन्यत्र रोमाणि यज्ञस्यांगं विधुन्वतः कुशाः काशास्त एवासन् शश्वद्धरितवर्चसः ऋषयो यैः पराभाव्य यज्ञघ्नान् यज्ञमीजिरे बर्हिष्मती बर्हिष्मती नाम named Puri city sarva all kinds of wealth samanvita full of nyapatan fell down yatra where romani the hairs Yajnasya, of Lord Boar, Angam, his body, Vidunvataha, shaking, Kushaha, Kusha grass, Kashaha, Kasha grass, Te, they, Eva, certainly, Asan, became, Shashwat Harita, of evergreen, Varchasaha, having the color, Rishayaha, the sages, Yaihi, by which, Parabhavya, defeating, Yajna, the disturbers of the sacrificial performances. Yajnam, Lord Vishnu, Ijire, they worship. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Translation. The city of Barhishmati, rich in all kinds of wealth, was so called because Lord Vishnu's hair dropped there from his body when he manifested himself as Lord Boar. As he shook his body, this very hair fell and turned into blades of evergreen kusha grass and kasha, another kind of grass used for mats, by means of which the sages worshipped Lord Vishnu after defeating the demons who had interfered with the performance of their sacrifices. Kindly repeat. The city of Barhishmati, rich in all kinds of wealth, was so called because Lord Vishnu's hair dropped there from his body when he manifested himself as Lord Boar. As he shook his body, this very hair fell and turned into blades of evergreen kusha grass and kasha, another kind of grass used for mats, by means of which the sages worshipped Lord Vishnu after defeating the demons who had interfered with the performance of their sacrifices. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Any place directly connected with the Supreme Lord is called Pithasthana. Barhishmati, the capital of Swayambhuva Manu, was exalted not because the city was very rich in wealth and opulence, but because the hairs of Lord Varaha fell at this very spot. These hairs of the Lord later grew as green grass, and the sages used to worship the Lord with that grass after the time when the Lord killed the demon Hiranyaksha. Yajna means Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad-gita, karma is described as yajnartha. Yajnartha karma means work done only for the satisfaction of Vishnu. If something is done for sense gratification or any other purpose, it will be binding upon the worker. If one wants to be freed from the reaction of his work, he must perform everything for the satisfaction of Vishnu or Yajna. In the capital of Swayambhuva Manu, Barhishmati, these particular functions were being performed by the great sages and saintly persons. Dasa is the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Mande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. So, Swayambhuva Manu, after marrying his daughter Devahuti to Kardamu Muni, has returned to his capital along with his wife Shatarupa and along with all the retinue who had accompanied him. And when he returned to his capital Barhishmati, which was situated in Brahmavarta, we have seen how the citizens were all overjoyed and they came and received him at the entrance of the city. Now the city itself is being described. It's interesting that the chapter is entitled Marriage of Kardama Muni and Devahuti, but then after the marriage of Kardama Muni also, this chapter is continuing to describe the return of Swayambhuva Manu to his capital. Although the subject matter is the marriage of Kardama Muni and Devahuti, still the Swayambhuva Manu is also no less. He is one of the 12 Mahajanas. And the capital, the place which he made his capital is also very important from the devotional point of view. And that is why the Bhagavatam is going on to describe the return of Swayambhuva Manu to his capital. What was special about this capital? Because every king will have a kingdom to rule over, and he will have a capital city for that kingdom, which is where the administrative offices and all will be located. That is common. That is a given thing for any ruler. Now, what is special about the capital city of the king, Swayambhuva Manu, the capital named Barhishmati? The speciality is twofold. One is that Yajnasya Angam Vidhunvataha Yatra Romani Nyapatan. When Lord Yajna shook his body, at that time his hairs happened to fall off from his body and fell on the earth. Who is this Yajna? This Yajna is clarified to be Varahadev, Lord Boar. Varahadev, after killing Hiranyaksha, he shook his body, just like imitating like animals. Animals also, when they have taken bath or something like that, they get out of the water and then shake their body to free themselves of the water. Varahadev also had picked up Mother Earth from the depths of the ocean and he had come out. So naturally, he would also have shaken his body. And when he shook his body, the water also was shaken. He shook off the water also, and at the same time, some of his hairs also fell. And these hairs fell on this place, which came to be known as Barhishmati, because that was where the hairs of the Lord Yajna, Varahadev, fell. Now, the importance of Barhishmati did not end with Varahadev's hair falling there. Varahadev's hair being transcendental is not like our hair. Our hair is actually dead matter. When we cut off the hair, we put it into the dustbin or it is taken away by people for making wigs, etc. You don't get more use than that. But then the Lord's hair is completely transcendental. The place where the Lord's hair fell, green grass started sprouting. And that grass, because it sprouted from the hair of the Supreme Lord, normally hair is considered to be contaminating. Hair, if it falls somewhere, we have to clean that place, isn't it? For example, suppose somebody goes to a restaurant and he is ordered nice dosa and he is eating the dosa. In the middle of the dosa, he finds one strand of hair, human hair. What will happen? There will be hangama, and the guy will say, I'll complain about you to the FSSAI, I'll do this, I'll do that. And that hotel owner, restaurant owner will also become very upset. He'll become very afraid. If this man goes and complains, my restaurant will be shut down. Then he will say, no, please, I'll give you free of cost, I'll replace your dosa. And somehow you will try to pacify him and send him away. Why? Because hair is contaminating. Hair is not considered hygienic. In our words, we say it is muchi, means it is unhygienic. But when it comes to the Lord's hair, there is no such consideration. The grass which sprouted from the Lord's hair is used for conducting yajna. Kusha grass. Kusha grass is considered very auspicious, and no yajna is complete without the use of kusha grass. And two kinds of grasses came out. One is kusha, another was kasha. Kasha grass is used for making mats. That is why whenever we do puja, whenever we do arati, we put a mat and we sit or stand on the mat and then we do arati or Shodashopachara puja or whatever. Because these mats are considered to be pure, although they are born from the hair of Varahadev. So because this Kusha and Kasha grass grew there, they became the place where rishis and sages started residing and using the dried Kusha and Kasha grass for performing various kinds of yajnas. Yajnam ijire, they worshipped the Supreme Lord with yajnas. This word yajna has been used in two senses here. One is yajna referring to sacrifice. Another yajna refers to Lord Vishnu. So how do we understand this? The word yajna actually is derived from the Yajurveda. In the Yajurveda, there are many descriptions of the processes involved, the details involved in conducting fire sacrifices. And so, in all those activities which are mentioned in the Vedas, every yajna has to have a chief person who is going to be the presiding deity of that sacrifice. So, from that comes Yajusham Patihi Yajnaha. One who is the chief presiding person over all the sacrifices which are mentioned in the Yajurveda, Yajusham Patihi Yajnaha. That person is called Yajna. Yajna means sacrifice also. Yajna means the chief person in every sacrifice. And in every sacrifice which is mentioned in the Yajurveda, the chief person is Lord Vishnu only. We may conduct a sacrifice for satisfying Lord Ganesha, or we may conduct a sacrifice for satisfying Lord Indra, or any other Devata. In all those sacrifices, the Yajnapati is always Vishnu only. And therefore, when here it is said, Yajnasya Angam Vidhunmata, when Yajna shook his body, it is referring to Vishnu, who is Varahadev. This performance of this Yajna is actually mandatory for everybody in the Varnashrama Dharma. Because people are born in the conditioned state into this material world with various kinds of desires. And these desires, to fulfill these desires, the people engage in various kinds of activities. Now, the goal of the Vedas is to give the human society an opportunity to develop spiritually, develop their sense of vairagya, renunciation, and give up all the desires within this material world and go back to Godhead. This is the prime purpose of the Vedas. But then all of a sudden, when a person is filled with so many material desires, so many desires to enjoy in this material world, we cannot all of a sudden tell him to give up all those things. And if we tell such a person to give up those things, one of two things may happen. He may, on the basis of sentiment, he may give up, but he will not be able to sustain that renunciation. Very soon he will go back to his old ways. Another thing that can happen is, the people will feel this is impractical. What we cannot do, why the Vedas are telling, reject the Vedas, enjoy sense gratification without any restriction. In either case, what will happen is, the person will fall down and he will go deeper and deeper into ignorance. The purpose of the Vedas will not be solved. Therefore, the Vedas give various yajnas to fulfill the desires of the living entity. If you have this kind of desire, perform this yajna. If you have this kind of desire, perform this yajna. So like this, by engaging the people in dharma, the people are encouraged to develop wealth, artha, and by that satisfy your kama. In a legitimate way, you engage in sense gratification. By doing this, gradually, the process is so designed that the person will gradually develop vairagya, renunciation. Finally, he will start thinking of moksha. In fact, in the Shastras, it is said that to give an example of how the process gradually elevates a person who for 100 births, 100 births, if one executes the dharma of a Brahmana very diligently, then without fail, for 100 births if he performs, then after that 100 birth, he will take birth in the planet of Brahmaloka. So we can see how the person gets elevated spiritually, because in the upper planetary systems, not only are the facilities for sense enjoyment higher, the consciousness is also much more developed. The understanding that Vishnu is the supreme is also much more developed. So from there, of course, Brahmaloka, again the living entity has to further progress, and then he can liberate himself. He can attain moksha also. So we can see how by following the Varnashrama Dharma, a person is given an opportunity to elevate himself. Not only in this world. Those who are born as Shudras get an opportunity to elevate themselves into Vaishyas. Vaishyas get an opportunity to elevate themselves into Kshatriyas. Kshatriyas get an opportunity to elevate themselves into Brahmanas. And Brahmanas get an opportunity to elevate themselves into upper planetary systems, above Swargaloka. And then from there again further, they can elevate themselves. This is the whole scheme of the Vedas. Now, for that purpose, the Yajnas are given. Now the Yajnas, the way the Yajnas are designed is such that, as Lord Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad-gita, Yajnarthat karmanoanyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha. Tasmat kaunteya yajna samachara. What is that? What is the balance of the verse? Somebody remembers? Tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. So, the yajnarthat karmanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha. Krishna explains to Arjuna that sacrifice, activity, karma, any activity performed for the sake of yajna, means for the sake of satisfying Vishnu, is liberating. Therefore, tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. Please perform your duties. Please perform your duties without attachment to the results. Without attachment, in a detached way, you perform your duties with respect to satisfying Vishnu. And by this way, you can be elevated. So one status, one level is performance of the yajna with a desire to enjoy the result of that yajna. Higher than that is to perform the same yajna without desire for the result as a matter of duty. It's my duty. Having taken birth as a human being, I have to perform yajnas. And so one performs yajna as a matter of duty. Then that is higher than carrying out of the yajna for enjoying some result. Now Krishna is giving an even higher principle. You perform yajna without attachment to the result, but also with the intention to please Vishnu. So this is the highest way, the best way of performing yajnas. Otherwise, what happens? As Krishna says, yajnarthat karmanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha. If one does not act in this way, it will result in karma bandhana. What is this karma bandhana? Karma bandhana means, Prabhupada explains that whatever desires we have for material sense gratification in this material world is recorded in the spool of the mind. The mind is like a tape. So whatever is like a recorder, like a camera or like a tape recorder. Whatever desires we develop at any point of time, all those desires are recorded in the spool of the mind, in the memory. In our mind, it gets recorded. And then what happens is, according to the higher arrangement of the laws of material nature, one is forced to take several births to satisfy those desires. Now, if, for instance, suppose I look at some bird flying in the sky and I develop a desire, if only I could also be flying carefreely like that bird. Now, in this life as a human being, I cannot fly like a bird. It's not possible. So, but then that desire gets recorded. And then what happens is, some life I will have to take birth as a bird and then satisfy that desire. But then this kind of karma bandhana, what happens is, it is bandhana, it is binding, it binds us to repeated birth and death within this material world. Repeatedly we have to take birth, either not necessarily only in the human form of life. We may take birth as some lower species, as a plant, as an animal, as a bird, as a fish, etc. So this kind of karma bandhana, bondage due to the result of one's desires and activities, is not actually beneficial for the living entity. Why? Because our constitutional position is to not keep on eternally taking birth and death within this material world. We are supposed to have an eternal existence in the spiritual world. So what is the good in going on developing these kind of desires and getting stuck to this material world? On the other hand, if we perform yajna for the satisfaction of our desires, gradually that performance will not only satisfy our desires, it will also liberate us, it will also gradually erase the desires itself, by which we can become free from karma bandhana. And therefore, in the Vedic scriptures, always vairagya or renunciation is considered, is given a lot of importance. And anybody who becomes a vairagi is given great respect in the Vedic society. So a person who performs yajnas for the satisfaction of his desires, he is definitely a person who is practicing Sanatana Dharma, but he is at the lowest rung of the Varnashrama Dharma system. Higher than him is one who performs yajna without any desire for the results, simply because it is my duty. With a sense of duty he performs. Higher than him is a person who performs yajna for the satisfaction of Vishnu. Now, in the case of people who perform yajnas for the satisfaction of Vishnu, also there are gradations. There are those who perform yajnas for the satisfaction of Vishnu. Now, there are various kinds of brahmanas who engage in all kinds of sacrifices for satisfying Vishnu. So, engagement of the brahmanas in satisfying Vishnu by performing yajnas, as also encouraging others to perform yajna, is higher than the normal people who perform yajna. Then there are people who execute devotional service. They become devotees. They develop a desire to serve the Supreme Lord in some particular way. And such people are considered higher than even simple brahmanas who engage simply in satisfying the Lord Vishnu through yajnas. Practical devotional service. For example, Arjuna rendered devotional service to Krishna by fighting in the battle. He did not sit and do any fire yajna. But still, he is highly respected even by great sages and rishis. We will see in many places in the Mahabharata and all that, great sages, they all extol the qualities of the Pandavas, including Arjuna. Arjuna amongst the Pandavas is the most highly glorified because he rendered most intimate devotional service to Krishna among all the Pandavas. So practical devotional service carries far greater respect and weightage than simply engaging in fire sacrifices. Now, amongst the devotees who render practical devotional service to Krishna also, there are gradations. There are devotees who like to serve Krishna in this material world. They want to do some big thing for serving Krishna in this material world. Such living entities, they may become pure devotees, but they will always be in this material world, engaging in some pastime or the other with the Supreme Lord and His incarnation, somewhere or the other in this material universe. Now, higher than them are those who don't have any desire like that I should serve the Supreme Lord in some big way in this material world. They simply want to serve the Supreme Lord wherever they want to serve the Supreme Lord by in the spiritual world. They want to be liberated from this material world, and they want to engage in devotional service to the Supreme Lord with one of the four kinds of liberations. Samipya, Sarshti, Sarupya, Salokya, one of these four liberations they would like to take, and they would like to serve the Supreme Lord, and these devotees get elevated to Vaikuntha. So these devotees are higher than those who remain in the material world, rendering some kind of service or the other. Now, higher than these are the people, are the devotees who are residing in Vraja, in Vrindavan. They are the topmost devotees. Now, all these people are actually, they are all following the principle Yajnarthat Karmanonyatra. These are all different gradations of the same principle that one has to act for the satisfaction of Vishnu. One may want to satisfy Vishnu simply by performing yajnas which are described in the Vedas. Another may want to perform yajna to Vishnu by rendering practical devotional service. Another may want to satisfy Vishnu, perform yajna for Vishnu by rendering service for the Supreme Lord in this material world. And somebody may want to perform yajna, satisfaction of Vishnu in the spiritual world by being liberated. But then of all of them, the topmost are the Vrajavasis. Why? What is special about the devotional service rendered by the Vrajavasis? Because if you look at the Vrajavasis, what are they engaged in? Morning, early morning, they'll get up during sunrise, take bath and all that, go to the cow shed. They'll milk the cows. After milking the cows, they will hand over the milk to their women folk who will make nice butter, buttermilk, curd and all those things from that. And they will nicely sit and eat all that wonderful preparations made with ghee and butter and all the milk preparations. Then they will take the cows and go to the grazing grounds in the forest. Then they come back in the evening, take bath and go to sleep. This is all that activity that happens there. But they are considered higher than even rishis, sages, munis, sannyasis, even greater than all of the Vedic scholars. There are so many Brahmanas and Vedic scholars who are very philosophical and understand the Vedas and Vedanta Sutra and Upanishads and all. Even they are higher even than them. How do we understand this? Actually, to understand the position of these Vrajavasis, there is a wonderful pastime of Brahmaji getting bewildered, Brahma Vimohana Leela, where Brahmaji stole the Gopas and the calves who are being grazed by Krishna just to see the power of the Supreme Lord, just to glorify the Supreme Lord for his power. And we all know how Krishna, when Brahma took away all of them, Krishna expanded himself exactly as those calves and the boys for 1 year continuously. And then when Brahmaji came back, he was bewildered to see what was happening. And then in front of his eyes, all those cows and the calves and the boys, they transformed into 400 Narayana forms. And they all merged into the body of Krishna. So Brahma became completely bewildered. So that's why it's called Brahma Vimohana Leela. And when Krishna saw that Brahma is got completely bewildered, he is not able to understand what is going on, then Krishna thought this has become too much for him. So what? Suddenly Krishna transformed himself again like that small boy with the curd rice in his hand, searching where are the cows, where are the calves, where are the cowherd boys. And when Brahmaji saw that, he came out of his reverie. He said, oh my God, what am I seeing? What did I just see? Was it a dream or something? Then he realized, oh, I've been playing with fire. That Supreme Lord Narayana, whom I am worshipping every time and who is my Supreme Lord, he is Krishna. And I have gone and offended him by interfering in his pastimes. He is having his pastimes with his intimate devotees, and I have gone and interfered in that. Now if he becomes angry, then I am finished. So he went and fell at the lotus feet of Krishna. And now he is afraid that Krishna will become angry at him. So to avoid Krishna's anger, Brahmaji started satisfying Krishna with wonderful prayers. Because Brahmaji is also a great pure devotee of Krishna. So he offered wonderful prayers to Krishna in the Srimad-Bhagavatam in the 10th canto. So one of the things that he mentioned was how Brahmaji glorified the Vrajavasis. He said that you, the Supreme Lord, whom even the Devatas find it difficult to have darshan, even I as Brahma find it so difficult to have your darshan. Whenever the Devatas have any problem, they go to Brahmaji. Brahmaji takes them to Vishnu. How does he take them to Vishnu? He takes them to the beach of the milk ocean, Shvetadvipa. And there, in the middle of the Shvetadvipa is where Kshirodaka Sai Vishnu is lying down. And there is not that they immediately take some boat or cruise and then go to the middle of this one and knock on the door and open and meet Vishnu. No, they cannot meet Vishnu like that. They stand on the shores and they start chanting Purusha Sukta. And even after that, Lord Vishnu doesn't come in front of them. Then Brahmaji sits in meditation, and from within his heart, Vishnu will give a message. This is how communication is going from Vishnu to the Devatas. Even Brahma doesn't get to see Vishnu so often. At the beginning of the creation, one time he had darshan of Vishnu. After that, very, very rare. So, that Supreme Lord, who is very rarely seen even by the Devatas, is playing constantly with the Vrajavasis. So what a greater fortune can be there than this, to be able to play with the Supreme Lord 24 hours a day. This is a great fortune which is not available even to Brahmaji. So then, one of the things like this, glorifying the Devata, glorifying the Vrajavasis, Lord Brahma said one thing. After glorifying the Vrajavasis, Lord Brahma said, Yesham Gosha Nivasinam Uta Bhavan Kim Devarateti Nascheto Mukhyati. He said that I am getting bewildered, I am confused that Yesham Gosha Nivasinam. Gosha Nivasi means, Gosha means this village of Vraja. So all these Gosha Nivasis, all these Vrajavasis, that Bhavan Kim Devarateti, what will you give, what reward will you give to them for their devotional service? Naschetaha, when I think of this, Mukhyati, I get confused, I get bewildered. Because, why is it? Because Krishna is incapable of rewarding his devotees. There is something beyond his power or something like that. No, Vishwa Phalat. He is the Supreme Lord who can give Phala, who can give benediction to even the Devatas. People worship the Devatas for some benediction, for some boon, for some anugraha. They go and worship Lord Ganesha. All the obstacles in my business, let it get removed. A student will go and worship Saraswati, please let me get good marks. Like that, somebody wants good health, he will go and worship Surya Deva. Like this, all the common folk, they go and worship the Devatas for some benediction. Now the Devatas themselves, sometimes they also have some desires and they want benediction. Whom do they go to? They go to Lord Vishnu. So for the whole universe, the actual person who is capable of giving benediction is Lord Vishnu. He can give benediction to even the Devatas who are givers of benediction themselves. And that is why he is called Varada Raja. Varada means giving. Varada means one who gives vara, one who gives benediction. Vishnu is known as Varada Raja. He is the king of all those who give benedictions. Means for all the Devatas, he is the king. Or in another way, if you look at it, Varada Raja, he is the king who gives benediction even to the Devatas who give benediction. So, Vishwa Phalat Phalam Tvad Aparam Kutrapi Ayan Mukhyati. He said, Brahmaji said, as far as the devotees of Vraja are concerned, Gosha Nivasis are concerned, Brajavasis are concerned, I don't think in the Vishwa, in this whole universe, there is any phala you can give them. Except for Tvat Aparam, except for you giving yourself to them. The Supreme Lord, Krishna, is the source of everything. He is Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. He is the owner, he is the master of all the lokas, of all the planets, of all the universes. And Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam, all the yajnas are meant to satisfy him only. So he is the Supreme Lord. There is nobody equal to him, nor is nobody above him. Asamaurdhva. Krishna says that there is nobody equal to him, there is nobody above him. Mat samasya vedikastana drishyate. There is nobody equal to Krishna, there is nobody above him. He is the Supreme Lord. He is the final word. He is the absolute truth. So, for all devotees, the Supreme Lords give benediction. The Devatas are also devotees of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Krishna gives benediction to them also. But the standard of devotional service of the Goshavasis, of the Vrajavasis is so high that Brahmaji is saying, I see no other option but for you to give yourself to them. The benediction you can give to the Vrajavasis is to give yourself to them. But there also I am getting confused. Why? What is the problem? Why Krishna cannot give himself to the Vrajavasis? What is the problem? The problem, he says, Brahmaji says, is actually that the Lord Krishna has actually, what he has done is, Sadveshadiva Putana api sakula Tvameva Devapita. Oh my Lord, in my consideration, you have already given yourself away. Deva Apita, you have already given yourself away. To whom has he given himself away? Krishna, you have given yourself away to Putana and all her family members. Putanapi tad swakula Tvameva Devapita. You have given yourself away already to Putana and her family members. Who are her family members? Her family members are not some great rishis and sages and some great Vaishnavas. Her family members are Aghasura and Bakasura. So Krishna, Brahmaji is saying, you have already given yourself to Putana and Bakasura and Aghasura. Why? Because Aghasura and Bakasura, they were liberated by the Supreme Lord, and Putana, Krishna gave her the position of his mother in the spiritual world. She became a Dhatri, she became a nurse to Krishna in Goloka, in Vrindavan, and she became an assistant to Yashodamai. So, Brahmaji is saying, you have given yourself already to Putana. Why? Sadveshadiva. Simply because she wore the dress of a devotee and came to Vraja. Simply because she wore the dress of a devotee, you gave yourself to her. Now what about the Vrajavasis? The Vrajavasis, what have they done? The Vrajavasis, about the Vrajavasis, Lord Brahmaji says that Yad Dhamartha Suhrid Priya Atma Tanaya Pranasya Stvat Krite. They have dedicated, what all have they dedicated to you? Putana, she only dressed herself as a devotee in front of you. For that you gave yourself away to her. Whereas you look at the Vrajavasis, what all they have given to you? Dhama, their houses, their lands, they have given away to you. Artha, their wealth is meant for you. Priya, all their relatives, all their near and dear ones, they are dedicated to you. Atma, their own bodies they have given to you. Our bodies are the dearest to us. Even their own bodies they have given to you. And Suhrid, their dearest friends also they have given to you. And not only this, prana, their very life, ashu and their life breath, and their ayu, their life duration, tvatkrite, they have dedicated for you. You look at the Vrajavasis, it may look like early morning they are milking the cows, they are going to the forest and all that. But why are they doing this? They are not doing this so that they can enjoy the milk and the curd and the butter and all that. The cowherds are taking the cows for grazing, thinking, and they are milking the cows, thinking that this milk, from this milk product, we can feed Krishna. And all the gopis, they are taking all that milk and making butter, making curd out of that and churning it to make butter. Their whole thinking is, the best butter I have to make, and I have to put it in pots and hide it so that Krishna can come and steal it. He can enjoy stealing that butter. Their whole goal is that only, that Krishna should steal their butter. And the gopis, they have dedicated their bodies, their everything to Krishna. They simply, when the gopis, they go and decorate themselves in front of the mirror, they dress themselves, what is their thinking? Their thinking is, oh, I should look very beautiful so that when Krishna sees my face, he'll become happy. So, although the Vrajavasis, they are doing seemingly ordinary activity, their whole goal is simply how to satisfy Krishna. Even the cows there, they are giving milk for what? They are thinking this milk will be drunk by Krishna. That is why they are also happy to give milk. So every animal, every bird, every human, every person in that Vraja is simply centered around Krishna. Their Dhama, their Artha, their Suhrid, their Priya, their Atma, their Prana, their Asya, everything is dedicated for Krishna. They know Krishna and nothing else. Yajnarthat karmanonyatra. they know their only goal in life is satisfaction of Krishna. And therefore Brahmaji is saying, for Putana, she is a demon, you've given yourself away to her. Now what will you give to the Vrajavasis who have dedicated their everything for you? They have left nothing. They are left with nothing. Their houses dedicated for you. Their wealth dedicated for you. Each of these items is increasing order of greatness, increasing order of attachment to us. Our land or our house is very dear to us. Dearer to us than that is our wealth. Dearer than our wealth is our friends, our suhrit. Dearer than our suhrit is our near and dear relatives, our children, our husband, wife, children, parents. So close relatives, they are very priya. Dearer than them is our atma, our own body. Dearer than our body is our own prana, our own life. All of these things, that everything possible that a person can become attached to, they have given off to you. So Brahmaji is saying, then now what is there left for you to give to the Brajavasis? And that is why Krishna also tells the gopis, Na parayeham. He says, Krishna says, I cannot repay the debt which you have created upon me by loving me so much. Na parayeham niravadya samyujam. Your spotless devotional service is of such high caliber. Na parayeham. I don't know. I will never be able to repay you. The only way is that you be satisfied. Tat sadhu krityam. You be satisfied with your devotional service. I cannot repay you. It is beyond my capability. The Supreme Lord is saying, Krishna is saying. So, the highest form of Yajnarthat Karmanonyatra is epitomized by the Brajavasis. And that same mood actually is displayed even in this material world by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada's every single possession, whatever he had, his knowledge, his communication skills, his vidvatta, his scholarship in Sanskrit, everything Prabhupada dedicated to Krishna. Not a single thing Prabhupada kept for himself. In fact, you see, there are so many institutions which are created by different sadhus in this world. Nowadays, it's more and more sadhus are becoming prominent. If you see, in all their institutions, that person will be the most prominent personality. He will be the face of the organization. But if you look at the ISKCON movement, the Hare Krishna movement that Prabhupada established, Prabhupada never kept himself in the center. It was always Krishna. So you see, Prabhupada dedicated everything for Krishna. Prabhupada was embodying the Brajavasi mood of Yajnarthat Karmanonyatra. You look at the Prabhupada's purports to the Bhagavad-gita also, where people will talk about karma and duty and renunciation and all that. Every page, every verse, Prabhupada talks about bhakti, devotional service to Krishna. So this is very unique. This is extremely unique. Yajnarthat Karmanonyatra, if you take that verse and see what other people are commenting, they'll give all kinds of this one. Yajnarthat Karmanonyatra. So you have to perform your yajnas, you have to perform your duties, you have to be unattached, nishkama karma you have to perform. Look at what Prabhupada writes. Yajnarthat Karmanonyatra means you have to render devotional service. Because that is the highest Yajnarthat Karmanonyatra. Not Nishkama Karma. Nishkama Karma is a very medium, mid-level of following that principle of Yajnarthat Karmanonyatra. So, our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, set the example for us. He set the highest standard for the rendering of devotional service. He set the highest standard for following the instructions of the Bhagavad-gita. He set the highest standard for following the instructions of the Vedas, which is dedicating our everything, kaya, manasa, vacha, everything we have to dedicate for Krishna, nothing other than Krishna. So that's the standard which Prabhupada has set, and we all have a duty to follow Srila Prabhupada in that mood and to dedicate our everything for Krishna and for serving Prabhupada. And that will be actual, then only we can be we can call ourselves real disciples of Prabhupada. So, performing yajnas, by performing yajna, one becomes glorified, as it is mentioned in today's verse. Barhishmati, the place itself became glorified because all the citizens were engaged by Swayambhuva Manu in performing yajnas, sacrifices. And the highest form of yajna, sacrifice, is to dedicate all of one's activities, words, one's desires, everything for Krishna, as epitomized by the Brajavasis. So we should all aspire to develop the standard of devotional service which is rendered by the Brajavasis, and therefore, because anybody who performs yajna becomes glorified, as we have seen here, Barhishmati and Swayambhuva Manu have become glorified because of performing yajnas. Similarly, the Brajavasis are also glorified as the topmost devotees because of their unalloyed performance of yajnas for the satisfaction of Krishna. So we should also follow in their footsteps and make satisfying Krishna the only and ultimate goal of our life. So I'll stop here. Grantharaj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.